This is the original podcast edition of The Guild of the Cowry Catchers by Abigail Hilton, now part of the complete Pirates of Wefrevane series. The books are available as audiobooks, ebooks, and paperbacks. This podcast originally aired from 2010 to 2014. Stick around after the story for commentary from me, the author, more than a decade later. Hi, this is Abby, and I am recording this on January 19 of 2014. I have ambushed you guys in front of the story. I know that some of you don't listen to episodes where I'm just talking, and that makes it difficult to communicate with you. So I have inserted this in front of the story. Gotcha! Seriously, about half of you don't download episodes where I'm just talking, so this is important, so I need to tell you, so please listen. First of all, I just want to apologize. I am a traveling nurse anesthetist, and I am in hospital lodging right now. There are EMT people down below me who are banging around and coming and going. The walls are a little bit thin in the lodging where they have me. There's a street outside. You may hear cars. Sorry about that. It's not my recording closet. I'm on the road. So the first thing I need to tell you is that this feed, the Cowry Catchers feed, will go dark on December 13 of 2014. I have paid for hosting up to mid-December of this year, and then the hosting will expire and I will not renew it. After that, this book and all the rest of these books will probably continue to be available on podiobooks.com. I'm definitely going to put them up on audible.com, and I may decide to pull down the free versions eventually. I haven't decided yet. It will be available somewhere, but just not here. So, if you would like to continue hearing from me, I have started a new podcast called The Worlds of Abigail Hilton, and you can search for it in iTunes. If you just search for my name, I'm sure you'll find it. You can also go to my website at abigailhilton.com, and if you look there in the top color bar, there's a link that says podcast. If you click on that, it's got all the information. You can stream the first episode right there in the window, and I'll tell you exactly what the whole thing is about. It's going to have some of my fiction. It's going to have some of me talking to you and telling you what's going on. It's going to have some other people's fiction. And it's already several weeks into that podcast. I actually launched it at the very beginning of this year, and there's already a number of episodes in the feed. It will run concurrently with Cowry Catchers Book 5. It's none of the same content. It's completely different content. And if you want to subscribe, if you want to get started on that, you will continue to get my work after this feed goes dark. Cowry Catchers Book 5 has 13 episodes, not counting outtakes. The outtakes will probably be in a separate episode. And it will run through the middle of this year. I think it probably ends sometime in April. That depends on how fast my voice actors get me the lines for the second half of the book. If they do not get them to me quickly enough, then we will have a hiatus in the middle after episode 6. If not, then we'll continue and the podcast will end. This book will end around April. And then the feed will vanish in mid-December. But if you want to continue hearing from me, I will continue to podcast. I will continue to be around. I am planning on podcasting Hunters Unlucky, but all of that will happen in the Worlds of Abigail Hilton feed, and that will be my permanent podcast home. I don't want to keep jumping from feed to feed with all of my different books. I want everything in one feed from now on, and that will be the Worlds of Abigail Hilton feed. Either look me up in iTunes or in the podcast directory of your choice. If you can't find me there, the podcast URL is on my website. Just click on the podcast link, or if you look over on the right there on my website, on every single page, there's a thing that says RSS feeds, and the podcast RSS feed is under that. That's the URL that you would want to put in if you were just looking me up in a podcatcher. Depending on the device you're using, it might just give you a wall of code if you just click on it, but it's not really a page that's meant to be looked at. It's a URL that you're meant to put into a podcatcher, and it will get my podcast feed. So the second thing I wanted to say, and I debated a lot about whether I should even say this, the whole of the Cowry Catchers series, all 5 books, only have 2 scenes in them that I consider explicit. and this episode is one of them. I'm not telling you that because I suggest that you skip it. I strongly suggest that you don't skip it, because I don't put sex into my stories arbitrarily. It's there because, in my opinion, it's essential. Silvio's sexual and emotional dysfunction is a major subplot in this series, as I'm sure you've noticed if you've been paying attention. And that dysfunction has both a psychological and a physiological component. And I explore both of those as he gets better, or tries to get better. And if you skip the sex in the story, you will be skipping a major subplot of the story, and some elements of the story are not going to make as much sense to you. I get email periodically from people that tell me how much they like my work, and then they proceed to tell me that they fast forward through anything that makes them uncomfortable in the story, specifically any gay sex in the story they fast forward through. And I find that terribly frustrating, and I wish people wouldn't tell me that. I wish they wouldn't tell me that, because it's like saying that they just randomly skip pieces of the story. And, you know, that subplot, while it's certainly not the only subplot in the story, and it's not the whole point of the story, it is a really significant piece of this character getting better. But anyway, I couldn't decide. I had a hard time deciding whether I should put a warning in front of this episode or not, because I don't want to encourage people to skip it. But then again, it is much more explicit than any of the previous sex in the story, and there's one other episode that also has what I consider to be an explicit scene. There's only 2 in the entire series. And I'm not going to warn you in front of that one. You're grown-ups. And I would hope by this point in the story we have gotten rid of all the true prudes. But I know there are straight guys out there who are not prudish and who support gay rights, but they're a little bit squicked out by gay sex. And I do understand that. I totally understand that. But at the same time, if that's you, I don't know why you're listening to my book. So yeah, this is one of the 2 episodes in the series that has content that I consider explicit. It is based on the actual biology of living creatures on planet Earth. And if you can get past your discomfort, if you're one of the uncomfortable people, you might find it kind of interesting. Thank you for listening to me. Please go subscribe to my other feed, the Worlds of Abigail Hilton podcast, if you want to keep hearing from me after the story ends. And enjoy the episode. The Guild of the Cowry Catchers, a story of pirates in Panamindorah. Written, narrated, and produced by Abigail Hilton. Book 5, Shores Beyond the World. Warning! This novel was intended for people who shop in the grown-up section of the bookstore. If you need to ask whether you will be offended, you probably will. Episode 3. Chapter 7. Something in the Way.
Foxlings and ocelons are the only 2 species of Panon to maintain continuous populations in Wefervain, both before and after Grishnod ascendancy. Part of the reason must surely be that they posed no threat, and offered useful skills as healers and scent trackers. However, it also seems likely that they survived because Grishnods found them beautiful. Brothels spring up and thrive wherever large populations of these shelts settle in Wefervain. It is therefore surprising that so little is known of their mating habits. The author has never encountered a text on the subject. Foxlings especially are rumored to have strange mating behaviors, yet it is unusual to find one willing to share anything but the vaguest details. Gwaine, the non-Grishnods of Wefervain.
When Gerard went in to bed a half-watch later, he expected to find the cabin empty. The decks of all 3 ships were still full of Shelts, whom Gerard suspected would be dancing and drinking until dawn. The noise was beginning to give him a headache, and everyone seemed to have left their inhibitions in their sea chests. Gerard had nearly tripped over 2 couples in the hall.
They're only following the example of their leaders.
Basil seemed to be keeping his hands off the wine, but that didn't stop him from making a public spectacle. Gerard didn't think Basil and Lou were actually going to have sex right there on the deck, but he didn't want to stay and find out. As he stepped into the outer office, he saw a light in the room beyond. He entered to find Silvio, wearing his iridescent blue wyvern hat, standing on a chair beside his bookshelves. He had the contents of 4 boxes of books scattered around the room, and he was sorting them onto the shelves, humming under his breath.
"Hello, Gerard."
Gerard looked around the room. Silvio must have packed off their few possessions from the Nightingale. He saw some of the clothes he'd acquired there, and the carving Myrta had given him, along with Silvio's little chalkboards and fur brush.
Got your books back?
"Some of them. There are still a couple of boxes aboard the Defiance."
He stroked one cover fondly.
"I missed them."
Gerard smiled.
That was an interesting dance you did with Lou.
"It's an Ocelon tribal dance. Very old. Some of the erotic dances I grew up with were based on those old dances, but the originals were more complicated. Sometimes the Ocelons in the brothel would dance the traditional way. Lou used to, now and then."
Silvio, was Lou your first girl?
It wasn't the sort of question Gerard would have asked if he hadn't had several glasses of wine. However, even stone sober, he wouldn't have expected the reaction he got. Silvio froze with one hand on the bookshelf. After a moment, he whispered,
"No."
Gerard expected him to continue, but he didn't. Gerard walked over to him. He felt suddenly ashamed of himself.
Silvio, I didn't mean... Hey.
Silvio's tail and ears had dropped. He'd lowered his head, and Gerard couldn't see his face under the brim of his hat. Gerard took the hat off and tilted Silvio's chin up. With Silvio standing on the chair, their faces were almost level.
I didn't mean that I want to get rid of you. I just wondered. I'm a little tipsy. Please, don't be sad.
Silvio gave a rubbery smile.
"It's not what you think. It's..."
But whatever it was, he couldn't say it. Gerard brushed a strand of pale, gleaming hair behind a white tufted ear.
Silvio, you have beautiful eyes.
"You think so?"
Gerard snorted.
You must know it. You draw attention to them with kohl.
Silvio turned his face into Gerard's palm.
"The kohl. When I was a kid, I used to pretend my kohl was a mask, and no one could see me behind it. I couldn't be hurt or humiliated with my mask on."
Gerard kissed him. Silvio let out a long breath. He slid his arms around Gerard's neck, tilted his head back. Gerard ran a line of rough kisses from his chin to his collarbone. He felt one of Silvio's small, delicate hands twine through his hair. Gerard's tongue fluttered in the hollow of his throat, and Silvio made a little breathless whine. His hips gave a hitch, and he wrapped one leg around Gerard's waist. Gerard felt himself go instantly, achingly hard. He pressed his mouth against Silvio's ear.
Is that real, or are you just trying to get me excited?
Silvio's voice came out small and frustrated.
"It's real, Gerard."
Gerard scooped him up and walked into the bedroom. There were no lamps lit here, but light from the inner office spilled through the open door. Gerard set him down on the edge of the bed, kissed him again, and began unbuttoning his shirt. Silvio tried to wriggle closer.
"If I was Lou, I'd be purring."
He sighed as Gerard pushed him back onto the bed.
"And I'd also be a girl, and you wouldn't feel guilty for loving me."
Gerard crouched over him.
That's not my present hang-up. Pay attention.
Silvio laughed. Gerard nipped his ear.
I realize that keeping track of all the things I feel guilty for can be complicated, but try to keep up.
He got off the bed and started to light the lamp. Silvio sat up, blinking.
"I thought you liked the dark."
Gerard went a little too fast, nearly burned his fingers. The lamp flamed into life, a soft glow, but brighter than anywhere that they'd made love before. Gerard came back and sat down on the bed.
I want to see you.
Silvio shrugged. He crawled into Gerard's lap and nuzzled under his chin.
"I know what you want. Even if you don't know, I do."
Gerard cupped Silvio's face in his hands.
No, I really don't think you do.
Something slippery would help. Kitchen oil works.
Gerard didn't pursue that.
Silvio, I'm not normally a passive lover.
He slid a hand inside Silvio's open shirt and ran a thumb around a nipple. Silvio jumped, and Gerard bent to kiss the side of his neck.
You want me to mostly be acted upon, to just take, and that's not like me at all.
Silvio was leaning up against Gerard on his knees, but he seemed less certain. Gerard kept one hand on the small of his back and let the fingers of the other hand trail lightly down his chest, over the muscles of his belly, up his spine. Silvio didn't make a sound, but Gerard felt his breath quicken. Gerard bit his throat lightly and growled. Silvio quivered.
You're not immune to this.
Not immune, just afraid.
This close, Silvio had caught the thread of his thoughts.
What are you afraid of?
Gerard ran a hand over the back of his pants, curling under him. Silvio jumped. He dropped his forehead on Gerard's shoulder.
Gerard, please.
Please what? Please stop? Please keep going? Maybe a little of both?
As far as he could tell, Silvio was about halfway there.
But I won't do it like this.
Silvio was beginning to tremble, and not with desire. Gerard scooted all the way onto the bed. He lay down and nestled Silvio in the crook of his arm. He didn't try to do anything, and, after a moment, Silvio began to relax.
Gerard, I'm sorry.
Gerard ran a hand through his hair, fine and smooth and silky.
Nothing to be sorry for.
Silvio caught his hand, kissed his fingertips.
I'll let you do anything. I'll try.
Can you tell me what frightens you? Can you put it into words?
Silvio thought about it. While he was thinking, Gerard got Silvio's shirt off. His skin was pale and smooth and always warm. His nipples were a pleasing pink. Gerard licked one, got a giggle for his trouble. He licked harder, bit lightly, and kept at it until Silvio was moaning and squirming. He worked his way down Silvio's side, then applied enough pressure to really tickle him in the muscles between his ribs and hip. Silvio laughed, whimpered, writhed in his arms. Gerard paused to catch his breath. Silvio was panting.
What about you?
Gerard shook his head.
Tonight's about you.
Silvio bit his lip.
But
Gerard bit hard enough to tickle him again, and Silvio broke off laughing. Gerard's tongue brushed something irregular, an old scar, mostly hidden below the fur line.
What's this?
Silvio was twitching spasmodically. Gerard got his pants off. Silvio jumped when Gerard's fingers brushed the hard pink shaft of his penis, glistening and half hidden in pale fur. Silvio's tail whipped between his legs and hid everything. Gerard returned his attention to Silvio's hip.
The scar, where did it come from?
Knife fight, before I learned to throw them.
He squinted.
How come I'm not wearing any clothes and you've still got all yours?
Gerard pursed his lips.
Because I'm working on you?
I spent a lot of time naked around fully clothed Grishnards.
Gerard's distress must have shown on his face because Silvio shook his head. He leaned up, put his arms around Gerard's neck, and pressed his cheek against Gerard's. His quick breaths stirred the tufts of Gerard's ears, and Gerard could feel him smile.
You've got me so wound up I can't think.
Good.
Gerard disengaged himself long enough to get his own shirt off. Silvio melted against him, skin to skin.
So I'm doing all right so far?
Gerard ran 2 fingers lightly over Silvio's belly, making teasing dips into his fur. Silvio nuzzled his jaw with a hint of desperation.
It's not really anything you're doing, although you're a charming lover, Gerard.
Had better?
Silvio moaned into his ear, and it was enough to make Gerard's hips hitch. Gerard growled.
You are so much better at this than me.
Silvio's voice came in a broken whisper.
I respond to you because I love you, but...
Gerard slid his hand into the velvet soft fur below Silvio's waist. It was so thick he had to work to find skin. Silvio tensed. Gerard stopped. He eased Silvio's head onto his upper arm so that he could look him in the face, brushed a strand of damp hair out of his blue eyes.
Do you want me to touch you or not? You can say no.
Silvio's face crumpled.
I get so frightened. I know it doesn't make any sense.
Can you share it, the way you shared the hurt about what your mother did to you?
Silvio considered.
I don't want to,
He said at last.
It's embarrassing and humiliating. Those memories. Gerard, please don't make me.
Gerard wrapped him up, hugged him so tight he probably couldn't breathe.
I won't make you do anything.
He kissed Silvio's shoulder.
Will you let me at least look without your tail in the way?
Silvio uncurled in his arms. He swallowed.
I'm your foxling, Gerard.
He was shaped differently. Gerard had felt that difference pressed against his belly or groin or hip, but he'd only had incomplete glimpses in shadow. Aside from having somewhat proportionally larger genitalia, foxlings had the bulbous portion of the organ about a third of the way up the shaft, rather than at the tip like a Grischnard. Gerard ran a finger lightly from stem to stern and felt Silvio shudder. He'd thrown one hand over his face.
Was that really necessary?
Tell me, are you more sensitive here?
He laid a finger lightly on the tip.
Or here?
And touched the swelling further down the shaft. Silvio let out a hiss between his teeth.
Congratulations, Captain Obvious.
You're getting a bit sarcastic.
I don't have many other defenses left, do I? They call that bit the knot.
Gerard ran a finger over Silvio's sheath. The fur there felt like velvet or moleskin. Silvio drew his legs up suddenly. Gerard thought for a moment that he might kick, but then his toes splayed and clenched in the bedsheets. He was squeezing the blood out of two of Gerard's fingers.
I saw a pair of child's gloves once, made out of that bit of several foxlings.
Gerard frowned.
And now you're telling me sad things to break the mood.
Silvio jerked his arm away from his face, his elbow catching Gerard in the chest. His eyes were dilated, and he was suddenly bristling all over.
Do you like hurting me? Do you want to see me scared? See me panic? Do you think that's sexy? Does that excite you?
Gerard stared at him. Silvio made a choking noise. He dropped his face in both hands. After a moment, Gerard moved the arm that was still under Silvio around his shoulders. He put the other hand against the side of Silvio's face. Shh. Silvio's body clenched.
Gerard, why are you even still here?
Because I love you.
I didn't mean it.
I know.
Silvio uncurled again.
I don't know what I want.
Gerard combed through his hair. He bent and spoke with his lips on Silvio's ear.
I think you want what most people want, but there's something in the way. I'm trying to understand what.
Gerard remembered that first time in the sand dunes. He'd been so embarrassed and confused and off balance. Silvio had taken all the initiative, and he'd been completely confident and comfortable. However,
I did kiss him.
Gerard remembered how Silvio had arched his back, pressed their bodies together.
He told me to be still afterward, and I thought then that I could have reached down and finished it. Foxling's tie. There would be rubbing at first, but after that there'd just be pressure. Friction could make you panic if you were tied together.
Silvio had his tail tucked tightly between his legs again. Gerard reached down, felt his way gently through the fur, and wrapped his hand around Silvio's penis. He squeezed lightly, and Silvio gasped. He squirmed, but he didn't pull away, and he didn't ask Gerard to stop. Gerard could actually feel the knot swelling under his fingers.
Foxling's tie.
Gerard started kissing him again, but he kept one hand firmly around his knot. Silvio whimpered, moaned, panted, but he did not thrust against Gerard's hand as a Grischnard might have. He pressed their bodies together, tried to get as much contact as he possibly could. Finally, he made a little choking sound and bit Gerard's shoulder hard enough to draw blood. Gerard could feel that his hand was wet, not the sudden, full wetness that would have accompanied a Grischnard's climax, but a slow trickle. Gerard could feel the organ throbbing faintly against his fingers. Silvio's knot had swollen to the size of a plum. Gerard could well understand how two foxlings might be unable to separate. Silvio was glassy-eyed and trembling. Gerard could not tell whether he was in ecstasy or pain. He slid down to rest his forehead against Gerard's chest. Gerard rubbed his back with his free hand. Finally, Silvio looked up into his eyes. It took him a moment to put words together.
Don't leave.
Gerard didn't understand. He brushed the hair out of Silvio's eyes, kissed him on the forehead.
Where did you think I would go?
Silvio swallowed.
Grishnards get bored.
Gerard would have laughed if Silvio hadn't seemed so serious. Silvio dropped his head again. Gerard could feel his ragged breathing against his chest.
Patient. Takes a while.
I'm patient. I'm certainly not bored.
He scooted back against the wall behind them and drew his knees up, so that Silvio was cradled between his thighs and his chest. Silvio didn't seem able to support himself very well. He was damp with sweat and trembling. Gerard was pretty sure that the trembling was neither fear nor cold, but a physiological byproduct of his climax. Gerard kissed him, slow, lazy kisses that gave Silvio time to breathe in between. He was vaguely aware that the character of the fluid on his hand was changing, from watery to milky to sticky. At last, Silvio gave an intense shudder. Then, very slowly, like a leaf drifting down from a high branch, he relaxed. He went so limp that Gerard became alarmed.
Silvio?
A pause, then a drunken giggle.
I'm here.
Are you all right?
Silvio lifted his head and gave a dozy smile.
Tell you after I've slept.
Gerard attempted to clean them up with his discarded shirt, then eased Silvio back down into the blankets. He felt perfectly boneless, but after Gerard had gotten them both arranged, Silvio inched up and nestled his head under Gerard's chin. Then he was asleep. Chapter 8. Analysis.
Everything in Wefervain is made for Grishnards. They always seem startled to learn that everyone is not like them. Gwaine, the non-Grishnards of Wefervain.
When Gerard woke, Silvio was still asleep. He didn't wake when Gerard got up, tiptoed into his pants, and went out. Nobody seemed to be stirring except a few Shelts on watch. The sea was calm, the sky a pale blue. Gerard procured a large basin of water from the rain catchers. He found some leftover food from the night before and brought that up too. He bathed and dressed in the outer office, then peeked into the bedroom again. Silvio had changed positions since he left, and Gerard could tell by his breathing that he was starting to wake up. He twitched when Gerard sat down on the bed, and, when Gerard stretched out and put an arm around him, Silvio turned over and cuddled up. Gerard combed his fingers through the pale hair. It was getting longer than Silvio liked, nearly to his waist. Impractical, but lovely. Silvio smiled without opening his eyes.
Proud of yourself?
A bit.
Gerard reached down beside the bed for some of the food he'd brought.
Hungry?
Silvio shook his head.
Not yet.
Gerard bit into an apple, partially dried, wrinkled, and very sweet. He chewed, watching Silvio's languid stretch and reposition.
This makes you sleep longer.
Mm-hmm.
Nightmares?
Silvio laughed, his face buried in Gerard's shirt.
No, Gerard.
Does it always make you so dozy?
Silvio raised his head enough to lace his fingers under his chin.
Good question. Maybe we'll find out.
Gerard stopped chewing.
I know you.
Silvio yawned and stretched again. Gerard tried not to notice the sensual curve of his back and tail.
It's been a long time since I've gotten through the whole thing without a blank space.
Oh.
Gerard couldn't think of anything to say. Silvio's eyes scanned his face.
You don't know. You just don't know.
Don't know what?
Silvio gave a nervous laugh.
The degree to which you own me.
Gerard frowned, but Silvio kept talking.
If this sort of thing is going to happen, then I probably need to tell you about the girls.
Gerard sat up straighter.
I think I already know.
Silvio's eyes flicked to his face and away.
What do you think you know?
The customers wanted shows, didn't they? I remember you said something a long time ago about the shows. They made you tie with those oscillons.
Silvio nodded.
It was worse than with the customers.
He crumpled a fold of the sheets between his hands.
You can't tie as well with an oscillon as with a foxling, but it can be done. Some of the oscillons hated me. They were jealous of gifts the customers would give me, and I'd say things. I suppose I didn't help.
His voice was fading. Gerard reached out and gathered him up. Silvio squirmed.
You're all clean. I'll get you sticky. I should have told you foxlings make a mess. I didn't really think you'd...
Gerard tucked Silvio's head under his chin.
You're not that sticky.
Silvio laughed.
You're delusional.
He sighed.
It's not that complicated, really. The girl in a tie has all the power. She can basically drag you around by your cock if she wants to. If a male foxling gets hurt or frightened during a tie, his body will try to abbreviate it, but he can't just stop. You have to let it finish before you can get away. If your partner wants to humiliate you, well, that's pretty easy. I'm not very quick or witty like that. I think that's when the blank spaces started.
And Lou is an oscillon.
Silvio nodded.
She cared about me, but she just couldn't understand, and I couldn't talk about it. Back then, I didn't understand myself. The customers were another problem. Most of them didn't know how foxlings mate, but you had to watch out for the ones who did. A full climax leaves a foxling
Helpless.
Silvio nodded.
That's a good way to get robbed or raped or worse. As I got older, I trained myself not to respond beyond a certain point. I had to, or I wouldn't have survived.
Gerard sighed. It was what he'd suspected, and worse.
I know why Morchella never tried to get inside your head, Silvio. It hurts too much in there.
Silvio smiled.
But you fix things.
I try.
They were quiet for a while. Finally, Gerard said,
Silvio, was Basil one of the ones who got bored? Because if he was, I might have to beat him.
Silvio shook his head.
Oh no, he can be thoughtless, but not like that. I really wanted to enjoy being with him. I knew myself better by then, and we had fun. But he pushed for too much, too fast, and I started having blank spaces again. They hadn't happened for years, and I couldn't go back to that.
I don't suppose you told him.
Silvio made a face.
Let's think about that conversation. Hey, lover, do you remember what happened last night? I suspect neither of us do because you were too drunk and I was too crazy, but on the off chance that you do...
Gerard was laughing.
Silvio, does it hurt?
Silvio laughed out loud.
Well, you acted almost like...
Silvio was still snickering.
I wouldn't call it hurt.
He looked up coyly through his lashes.
Not the way you did it.
Gerard could feel himself blushing.
It doesn't feel the same all the way through. Better at the beginning and the end. Sort of crampy in the middle. It's a process, not one I'm very familiar with.
Gerard's mouth twitched up.
You need another sample for analysis.
Silvio laughed.
I doubt I even could right now.
Gerard ran a finger under his arm and down his ribs, making him curl away with a squeak. Silvio tried to catch Gerard's hands.
No, please, really, I'm not sure I could. I want to be awake today.
You could sleep in.
I think I already have.
Gerard leaned over him. He still had his hands in the muscles of Silvio's hip. Silvio squirmed and managed to get his knee between Gerard's legs.
You, on the other hand, are going to embarrass yourself if you don't let me have a turn.
Probably true.
Silvio scooted down a little. His eyes glittered.
I promise it will do wonderful things for my mental state.
How was that?
Well, for one thing, you'll stop looking at me like I'm an injured kitten. No, stay in that position. It's kind of interesting.
Chapter 9. Rearranging.
The lawless lands have a reputation in Wefervain for brutality, which is deeply ironic. In Wefervain, to appear openly brutal is unfashionable. Gwaine, the truth about wyverns.
They spent the morning cleaning up from the party shifting supplies between the 3 ships and reordering the crew to fill the gaps left by Nern's Shelts, and those who'd fled or been killed. A number of the Shavier from the Defiance went down and talked to the remaining rowers in the hold of the Fang. In the end, none of the rowers went ashore, but most of them went aboard the Defiance. Gerard agreed that they would likely be more comfortable among the Defiance's crew than the Fang's. Silvio didn't have enough cowries aboard ship to pay the rowers much, but he gave them what he could, and he gave it in person.
"And now we are truly destitute,"
he commented, as the last of them nodded at him awkwardly and climbed over the side of the ship.
If we couldn't afford to pay them, why did you?
Asked Gerard. Silvio didn't answer. He'd been having an argument all morning with Farrell over what the latter ought to be called.
Gerard is obviously your lieutenant,
said the cat.
If you must keep me as an officer, make me quartermaster.
"Gerard will be captain,"
scribbled Silvio on his chalkboard.
"I make a better master than I do a captain, especially now that I can't talk. Let Gerard be captain, and you can keep being lieutenant."
Gerard was surprised. What Silvio was saying was true as far as it went. A ship's master did most of the navigating. Silvio had never hired one for the Fang because he enjoyed doing the job himself. Farrell shook his head.
The sailors like Gerard, but they did not mutiny for him, Silvio. Maybe in time you could get them used to the idea. But for now, I think you'd better be the captain. A few days ago, I'd say make me boatswain. But now there are just too many things I can't do without hands. Let me be your quartermaster. I can do that with a little help from a secretary. I've been more or less doing the job for years. Call me that. Or call me the ship's cat. But it's silly to call me lieutenant.
I think he's right,
put in Gerard. One of the traditional roles of a quartermaster was to act as liaison between the crew and officers, something that Farrell had been doing since Silvio began working with him. It was not, of course, a glamorous job. Silvio sighed.
"Quartermaster."
Farrell grinned.
Yes. Let me make sure you've got something decent to eat. Let me keep track of what's in the hold and get whatever we need one way or the other, like a good smuggler.
"You were not a good smuggler,"
said Silvio, but he didn't write it. Instead, he scribbled,
"All right, quartermaster. The first provisions I require are good clothes."
Farrell smiled.
I already thought of that. Turns out, the Defiance's sailmakers are a couple of professional tailors. They're anxious to meet you.
The 2 elderly Shavier came over soon after, took Silvio and Gerard's measurements, and carried off Nern's summer clothes with promises to produce an interesting wardrobe. Silvio attempted to contain his excitement while insisting that they remove the jewels and some of the more valuable fabric to sell. Gerard said he could just make himself clothes out of sailcloth, but the tailors looked so disappointed that he finally relented and merely asked not to be dressed in cloth of gold or purple velvet. After they left, Silvio went into the very back of his closet to have a look at Nern's winter wardrobe. He emerged grinning, with a lot of dark fabric in his arms.
"He kept it."
Gerard looked up from Silvio's map table. Silvio was holding the black coat with silver trim that he'd given Gerard in Manse.
"I hope he didn't have it retailored. Here."
Gerard shrugged on the coat. It still fit. Silvio clapped his hands. Gerard examined the silver pattern on the sleeves.
Silvio, this is really probably the nicest article of clothing anyone ever gave me.
Silvio darted back into the closet.
"I wonder if he kept the hat."
He had. It didn't take Gerard long to find what else of his Arundel and Hope Haley had kept. He hadn't paid much attention to the small boats stowed on deck, but as he was looking everything over later that day, he noticed that one was unusually long for a ship's boat. He found its mainmast and sail stowed inside it.
The meerkat.
The sight of it reminded him how long it had been since he'd had his hand on a boom, and how very much he liked small boats. He had to resist the urge to assemble the little craft and lower her into the water immediately. In the afternoon, Silvio sent someone to get Gerard for tea. It was a frivolity that even Silvio had not regularly indulged, and being able to do so now made Gerard feel ridiculously civilized and extravagant. The tea was some horrible-tasting concoction that Nern had brought aboard, but it didn't matter. He and Silvio sat sipping it from delicate enameled cups, eating ship's biscuits, squares of cheese, and candied nuts, wiping their mouths with tiny lace handkerchiefs. They discussed the state of the vessel, the wind, and what lay between them and Masia Minor. The boatswain stuck his head in halfway through to tell them that a storm was blowing up, but didn't appear too serious. He gave Gerard a friendly nod as he left. Since his arrival, Gerard had been expecting, and dreading, questions about his presence in Silvio's cabin. However, he was mildly annoyed when he realized that not only was no one asking, but they didn't seem surprised.
They know me too well,
said Silvio with a snicker.
Yes, but don't they know me?
Silvio thought about it.
Well, they liked working with you back when you were one of them, but you're awfully private, Gerard. As far as they were concerned, you were from another world. And don't forget that I have a reputation as an insatiable reprobate, capable of corrupting anyone.
Gerard nearly choked on his tea. Silvio looked annoyed.
It's not that ridiculous.
Gerard started to disagree. Silvio brightened.
They're probably calling you some kind of virtuoso for keeping me interested.
Gerard winced. Silvio shook a finger at him.
They were gossiping about you 2 summers ago, and then they watched me lose it when you disappeared. You really expect them to be shocked that you're in my bed?
Gerard sighed.
I suppose I should just be glad no one's asked me to explain.
I know for sure they're saying you made me a lot nicer. I'd better do something shockingly offensive soon, or they'll think they've rescued the wrong foxling.
Gerard smiled.
Arden told me once that you were less snappy when I was around.
Arton.
Silvio toyed with his teacup.
He was a sweet kid, painfully shy. I wonder how he's doing on Mance. He was terribly interested in beasts and their illnesses. He liked my library. That was the original trade. He slept in my bed, and I let him read my books.
And then you decided to spend a few hundred cowries on him instead.
Silvio flicked his tail.
It never hurts to have a smart person in your debt. I don't know any beast healers. I thought one might come in useful. And no, I didn't mind giving the kid something. A Shelt on Mance offered him a bunch of cowries to kill me when I was recovering after that incident in the bookstore. I suspect Gwaine and Marlowe had something to do with that. Arton might have succeeded too. I wasn't my usual alert self. He told me about it instead. He had no idea I'd even thought of sending him to school at the time.
Gerard's eyebrows rose.
You never told me they tried to kill you twice on Mance.
Silvio shrugged.
I never told you a lot of things. I didn't exactly trust you.
Gerard thought about finding Silvio in the dark alley between the bookstores, covered in soot, doubled over in pain, and bristling with defensive aggression.
Even when I started to trust you, I didn't trust your judgment.
Gerard quirked a smile.
Thought I was too stupid.
I thought you were gullible and impractical and idealistic.
He grinned.
And very nice to look at, and nice to smell, and I liked your hands. I still do.
Gerard sunk a little in his chair.
You thought that? Back then?
Gods, yes. When you carried me back to the ship, I kept telling myself, don't get used to it, he'll never do it again.
Gerard cocked his head.
But I thought you liked Thess.
What does Thess have to do with it?
I was her husband.
Well, I wasn't thinking of leaving her out.
Gerard felt terribly naive. Silvio scratched his head.
Gerard, exclusivity is not a concept I understand very well. I loved her. I loved you. Does that make you unhappy?
Gerard could almost hear Thessalon laughing at the idea of Silvio sleeping with them. He was a little glad that they were not all three having this conversation.
Doesn't matter now,
he muttered.
I miss her too,
said Silvio, with a hint of defensiveness.
You think you're the only one who misses her? You're not.
I know,
said Gerard quickly. Silvio got up and went to fish in a drawer. He returned with one of their copies of Gwaine's book, one of the ones they'd made in that chilly basement in the Swordfish. There were no blank pages in the book. Paper was too precious. But there was a little blank space above the first chapter. Silvio's signature character was already dry on the upper corner, and Gerard saw the names of Maven and Gwaine written in the phonetic beneath it. Silvio handed Gerard a quill and ink.
Sign.
You're really going to send this to Marcella?
Of course.
Gerard licked his lips. He remembered what Coloan had said when they'd walked into his office.
Let me guess. You want me to kill the priestess?
Are you sure you're not just doing this to make her angry?
Of course I'm doing it to make her angry. I'm trying to keep us all alive. To do that, I think we need to create some chaos. Her anger will do that. Sign.
You have been listening to The Guild of the Cowry Catchers by Abigail Hilton. Copyright Abigail Hilton. The ebook for Cowry Catchers Book 5 includes 16 illustrations in ink and watercolor by Sarah Cloutier, as well as 13 portraits by Greensprite and 2 versions of the map by Jeff McDowell. The ebook is available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Smashwords, iBooks, and Kobo. The rest of the series is also available as illustrated ebooks, and the entire series is available in non-illustrated paper on Amazon. Visit my website at abigailhilton.com for information, including how to get 25% discounts on paper books and how to order signed books. This podcast included the vocal talents of
Nathan Lowell,
as Gerard,
Norm Sherman,
as Silvio,
Chris Lester,
as Gwaine,
Terry Mixon,
as Pharrell. Sound effects for this podcast were provided by SoundSnap, the Free Sound Project, and Sound Dogs. The intro music was Grace by Beth Quist. The outro music was Finale, also by Beth Quist. Both were licensed with permission from Magnatune.net. Music for Book 5 of Cowry Catchers included selections from Digital Juice at digitaljuice.com and Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. It also included additional music from Beth Quist, Diana Rowan, Jamie Saber, and David Modica, all from Magnatune.net. All the music was licensed and used according to the terms of the websites. This is a standard copyright now. This podcast is provided for your personal enjoyment only. You can download and archive the episodes for your personal use. You may not re-upload, mirror, or publicly redistribute the audio files, nor can you alter, remix, or create derivative works. And I'm back. This is 2026 Abby, coming to you with a few thoughts on the episode. So I did choose to use the version of this episode that ran in my main feed, because I thought it was interesting. I had completely forgotten the stuff I said at the beginning. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing to people, because if you didn't listen for the date, maybe you thought that was a current announcement. But you know what? There's lots of things in here that could be confusing to people if they think that the metadata or content is current. So hopefully if people are listening to the end, if you are actually listening to my comments at the end, you're not confused. If not, hopefully those people paid attention to the date, because I told you it was 2014. So the place where I was Tillamook on the coast. And I had completely forgotten that the EMTs were housed underneath us. They would come in and bang around at all hours. That was the point in time when I started the Worlds of Abigail Hilton podcast. In preparation for branching off from Cowry Catchers, I realized that I did a very common thing that authors do, which is kind of build their initial media presence around their first major property or their first major release. So my website was cowrycatchers.com, my podcast was all Cowry Catchers, and meanwhile I was writing Hunter's Unlucky, and I was really excited about that book. I believed then and still believe now that it's one of the best things I've ever written, and so I was getting ready to launch that, and I realized that I had Cowry Catchers branding across everything, and not Abigail Hilton branding, or even Pavonine Books branding, which is my little publishing company. So I was trying to fix that by having a podcast that was more all-inclusive. I eventually shut that podcast down as well and moved exclusively to Patreon for reasons. And I have had pretty much unbroken podcasting since 2010, but I have jumped several times to different platforms. So that jump from the main Cowry Catchers feed to the Worlds of Abigail Hilton podcast feed. 2014. By 2016, I was on Patreon, but it was a few years beyond that before Patreon supported podcasting. Anyway, you can go way back in the podcast on Patreon if you wish to, and maybe hear me contradict myself. I don't know. There's stuff in here that I had completely forgotten. So I say here that I was planning to podcast Hunter's Unlucky. I'm pretty sure I never did that. I don't think I have ever released Hunters for free. I might change that at some point. Hunters is a doorstop of a novel, and it is self-contained. It was intended to be a standalone, and I quickly realized that because I did not have any related content, if I released it for free, I was just kind of not going to get paid for it. That's not completely true. I mean, people do buy things in different formats if they really love them, but I didn't have a whole Hunter's Universe series at that point or any plans for one. That's changed. That's changed a lot. So maybe at some point I could podcast it for free in hopes that people who love it would come and buy the rest of the series so that me and my voice actors and artists and designers can all get paid somehow. Anyway, I mentioned that in here. I mentioned that I'm getting the audio ready and getting the novel ready for release. And I mentioned podcasting it, but I'm pretty sure that I never actually podcast Hunter's Unlucky. I probably podcasted the first part of the book. I could be wrong. I could be misremembering it. I don't remember recording this at all. I had also completely forgotten that I got emails about Cowry Catchers of people telling me they were my fans and then, casually mentioning fast forwarding through portions of the story. Which if you do that, I mean, first of all, don't tell the author you do that. But now I pick my battles better now. Honestly, if you want to buy my books, I don't care if you fast forward through them. I don't care if you skim them or skip sections of them. Just pay me. That's not completely true. I do care. But you know what? You do you. Sometimes people just are not in the right mental place to read a sex scene or a violent scene or whatever. You do you. That's not a hill that I feel compelled to die on anymore. I was kind of sensitive to it at that time because some of my beta readers reacted so badly to the sex in the story that I briefly tried to boulderize my own work. So I was paper clipping pieces of paper over parts of the manuscript that had what my beta readers considered objectionable content. Not even beta readers, alpha readers. That was soul crushing to me. I regretted doing it. And I think, it wasn't that long ago that I was writing the books when I was producing them. So that was kind of triggering to me when people basically told me that they were boulderizing them by hand with the fast forward button. But again, you do you. And there are lots of different reasons why somebody would not be in the right mental place to read a sex scene. I know, years after I wrote these books, my parents went through an incredibly messy divorce. And there was a period of time when I just, nothing romantic was appealing to me. I could not believe in love. There was a sense of deep sarcasm and pessimism that would well up inside me at just the sight of romantic content. It really threw a monkey wrench into some of my writing. And I would say that there's some ways in which writing polyamorous relationships or relationships between non-human characters or certain kinds of queer relationships that are not really heteronormative, that allows me to get outside of the ways in which I feel despair about kind of regular human relationships. It helps me work around those feelings. Anyway, there's all kinds of reasons why someone might need to fast forward through a scene. It's fine. But at that time, it was kind of triggering to me. I had completely forgotten about that. I also, listening to this, I can still hear the anxiety in my voice, talking about this stuff, because I had some really violently unhappy reactions from some alpha readers. And I had also had some reviews like claiming the books were bestiality, which they certainly are not. In case you don't know, bestiality is between humans and animals. Human beings. Non-sentient animals. Non-consenting. Critically unable to consent. That is not what this is. Just because the characters are not human and do not have human parts does not make it bestiality. I do think that the public has actually developed a more refined sense of like what might be morally acceptable in a fantasy world because it's between consenting characters. So also the public has developed a great interest in tying and knots that it did not have when I wrote and published these books. So I had to look this up because I was curious. I was like, man, none of my readers at this time had ever heard of the Omegaverse. I am 100% very few of them. Certainly none of the ones who were sending me shocked emails. So I had to look this up. So apparently Omegaverse came into being, and those of you who are too innocent to know what that is, it generally involves like werewolf kind of, and I'm not an expert on the Omegaverse, so those of you who actually are going to roll your eyes, but like werewolf kind of creatures that have knots and can tie, like a canine sort of tie, but are basically human in shape, usually. So, not unlike my canid shelts. But this began to be popular in the mid-2010s. So Cowry Catchers Remember was written in 2007. So when I wrote these books, there was no body of literature or fan fiction that included this sort of thing. Like, this was fairly uncharted territory. Obviously, the concept of humanoid creatures who would reproduce in interesting ways that exist in the natural world. What would it be like to have barbs on your penis like a cat does, or a knot like a canine does? This idea is certainly not original to me, and it was around long before 2010. But really, there weren't a lot of mainstream or even like quasi-mainstream stories that included these kinds of elements. Since then, there has been a huge amount of material that has been published in various forms and self-published in various forms that does include these concepts. And so I think that now people would, some of you are rolling your eyes and laughing that I got this kind of email, quote, fan mail, sometimes straight up hate mail about this specific element of the story, which is pretty vanilla and low-key and extremely consensual. But anyway, there were people upset about it at this time. So when I wrote the books, way before that body of literature hit the mainstream, by the time this podcast came out, 2014, I would say Omegaverse was still very, very small. Like, there were not a ton of mainstream people who had any concept of what that was. Like, this was their first exposure to this particular concept. So, for breaking ground. And I heard about it from some listeners who were shocked. I would also say that far more recently, like much more recently than Omegaverse, there has been a whole body of literature about romances with non-human, but critically sentient, consenting characters. So much so that there is a whole like sections on Amazon for romances between human beings and what are commonly now called monsters, which I don't like that term, because when I call someone a monster, I tend to mean like antisocial psychopath, whether it's a human or an animal that I'm calling a monster. But in the and that's, again, some of you are rolling your eyes at my naivete. I am 49 years old. I'm sorry. I'm not hip to what the kids are doing. But the monster fucker body of literature is large and extensive, and while it includes non-human characters, they are, at least in every example I have seen, fully capable of giving consent and making choices and, function like adults, not, critically not animals, actual animals or children. Like, these are adults. They're just aliens. And now alien romances were around much more early. I mean, going way, way back, I'm sure before I was born. So that body of literature, interestingly, had already been accepted. Like, that was not shocking for some reason to have an alien character that was nevertheless emotionally similar enough to a human being that you could have some kind of romance there, and maybe they had tentacles, or their penis was on their hand, or they mated by singing, something like that. They delivered a sperm packet to your forehead, a la a squid. So that body of literature, the people who read sci-fi, alien kind of stuff, they were not shocked by this sort of thing at all. But the fantasy community, which is the community that now has gotten interested in these, I put it in quotes, monster fucker stories, which again, usually the monsters are emotionally human. I'm sure not all of them are. I'm sure some of them are I don't know, struggle to communicate, shall we say. But, there are whole categories now on Amazon for non-human characters in romantic pairings. And sometimes there's a human involved, and sometimes it is two, quote, monsters involved. Again, I'm not an expert. Those of you who are experts are rolling your eyes. I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound ignorant. I wrote this book well before these became popular genres. And boy, did I hear about it from folks. I think now this is probably not shocking at all to most of you. And most of you are probably kind of scratching your heads about why I felt the need to sort of like apologize and tell everyone to brace themselves in front of the episode. But I knew, because I had published the ebooks earlier and had already received responses to the ebooks from my alpha readers and other people who read them from Amazon, who in some cases responded badly or in a shocked way to these particular scenes. So I had forgotten that I put that warning in front of it, and I let it stand because I think it's an interesting little time capsule. And it gives me an excuse to talk about Omegaverse and monster fucker romances in the context of me writing what is really a very tame little sex scene that involves a canid person. So obviously at this point in the story, Gerard and Silvio are getting back things that they thought they lost. They get back the fang. They even get back some beloved articles of clothing. And we are going to keep re-adding bits and pieces of their lives that they thought were lost forever, or they thought they left behind, some for better or some for worse. All right, I will see you in the next episode. This is Abigail Hilton, and you have been listening to the Pirates of Wefravain saga. Join me on Patreon for early episodes, long-form interviews, forum access, personal updates, and lots of artwork, including maps and species charts. That's patreon.com/Abigail Hilton. If you want the whole story now with no interruptions and some remastering of the early books for sound quality, you can find the entire series at shop.abigailhilton.com, along with all my other novels. The audiobooks are delivered by BookFunnel. Background music was Hidden Sky by Jamie Sieber, licensed from Magnatune.net circa 2014. The Guild of the Cowry Catchers podcast is an audio adaptation of the Pirates of Wefravain saga, written and produced by Abigail Hilton. Original production copyright 2010. All rights are reserved to the author.